was listening last night to talk from on the Insight Timer that I sent the link of last week. And Liz Gilbert, who wrote the Eat, Pray, Love book, she has a beautiful 20-minute talk on, it's called Facing Fear with Compassion. And as she spoke about having the loving, compassionate part of ourselves speak to the fear that we may have right now. So I think some really great insights. For me, I also thought about it as allowing a loving and compassionate God to speak to me, to speak to the fearful part of me. So she said, let the loving self speak to the fearful self, showing extreme tenderness, mercy, and compassion. So just to change the language a little bit as a person of faith, as a Christian, I put that as, let the loving God, Christ, speak to the fearful self. Receive the love, tenderness, compassion, and mercy of God. So I invite you into that today, to receive, to feel God's compassion, especially as we move into Holy Week, this time where Jesus suffered with. So a God who suffers with us, who's with us in our struggle and suffering. So can we have compassion for ourselves, give ourselves patience amidst some real challenging times and challenging emotions that we're feeling? But can God teach us? Can Jesus teach us how to be compassionate for ourselves and for others? So either lowering the eyes or closing the eyes. Begin to lengthen and deepen the breath. With every breath, I am gifted with the grace of life, the breath that God breathes into me. Becoming aware of God's presence. I invite you just to imagine God speaking these words to you. I'm right here. I see you. I've got you. I love you. I'm not going anywhere. I am you. As you breathe, just feeling God showering you with love and tenderness. Dear Lord, we ask you to be with us today, to guide us, to help open our minds, hearts, and bodies, feel a renewed and deepened connection and trust with you, the source of our being. We ask you to open our minds, open our hearts in this time of sharing, that it may help us move forward with greater hope and greater trust. Amen. So last week we went through the principle and foundation, and Alan and I shared a few insights on this. So we're not going to read through the whole thing, but just to reemphasize a couple of those lines. So I think important to continue to go back to this principle and foundation, this mission statement, the North Star, the guiding principle for St. Ignatius and for this tradition of the spiritual exercises. So again, connecting, what is the goal of our life? What is most essential? Right, this question, this word that's been used so much. So what is the goal? So Ignatius says to praise, reverence, and serve God, or in other language, just to be in relationship with God, to be aware of the many gifts of this world and where they come from. And how do we use the gifts of the world, our bodies, nature, our computers, our phones, right? We use them in so much as they help us to deepen in this goal. And then coming down a little further about balance, we hold ourselves in balance. So not being overly attached or controlling of these things in life that we can't control. So really challenging these lines here of not fixing on health or sickness, wealth or poverty, success or failure, long life or short one. So like, of course, we want to stay healthy and live a good long life. But can we trust above all that when we do get sick, when we do face financial challenges, when we do fail, when death does happen, can we trust that God is still with us in that, and that God can work with that? So looking back, I think throughout our tradition, right, of the way that in the biblical tradition of the way that God continues to work with, continues to maintain this promise, this covenant with God and God's people. And this last line, above all, I want and I choose what better leads to God's deepening life in me. So I think this is what it's all about here, of where we're creating a condition, creating a capacity for God's life to deepen within. And so I think this is where so many different spiritual practices, including yoga, can be a way to open ourselves up to allow God's life to deepen within. A simple practice, but really, really good practice to do daily. So we're going to focus on the different joints of the body. So including the ankles, knees, hips, wrists, elbows, shoulders, and neck joint. And then take the spine in 6 different directions. So back bend, forward fold, side bend to the left, side bend to the right, and twisting left and right. So about a 20-minute practice, and really great asana practice to do before meditation, do before prayer. So let's first just find mountain pose, Tadasana, standing with the feet rooted, connected to the ground. Soften the shoulders. Just look at the principle and foundation. So finding this connection, the foundation. Taking a few deep breaths and feeling roots growing. Connecting with that sense that God as the roots, Jesus as the trunk, and we as the branches, with the Spirit as the sap running through, connecting all of us. Just a little bit sway side to side. And if standing or balancing is an issue, you're welcome to do this in a chair, or if you have a wall by you, just using a wall if there's any of these poses that pose any challenge with balance. So first, just bringing your weight into the right foot and lifting the left foot just a couple inches off the ground, and flex and point. And begin to take some circles with the ankle joint. A few times each direction. And relax the foot down. And bringing the weight into that foot and switching sides, flex and point. And then taking some circles a few times each direction. And then relax both feet down. Then bring the ankles together and the knees together. Bend the knees and like sitting down, like you're sitting down towards a chair. And with your hands just above the knees, on top of the knees, begin to take some slow circles around. About 3 circles. Just bringing those knees around. And then switching directions when you get to about 3 circles. Good, and then coming back to standing and bringing the hands to the hips. And just to sway side to side a bit with the hips. Continue to breathe. And then starting to circle the hips. As big or small, as fast or slow as feels right for your body. Maybe closing the eyes. And taking about 3 circles each direction. And then coming back to center. And just for a moment, bring your awareness to the ankles, the knees, the hips. Noticing the energy moving through the legs. And then moving up higher, let the hands come out in front of you. We'll take some circles around with the wrists. So as you curl the hands in, bring the fingers in, and then as they come out, extend the fingers. So their wrists and fingers and hands are all getting some movement here. So taking at least 3 circles each direction with the wrists, the hands. Just being aware of the sensations, noticing. Good, and now for the elbow joints. So beginning with the palms stretched out, palms facing upwards. On your exhale, we'll bring the fingers towards the shoulders, bending the elbows. Exhale. Inhale, lengthen the arms out in front of you. Exhale. One more time, inhale. Exhale, bringing the fingers, the shoulders, towards the shoulders. And now we'll take some circles with the shoulders. So lift the elbows up towards the head and wrap them back and down. So 3 circles one direction, then we'll switch directions. Nice and slow, big circles. Breathing, inhale as you reach up, and exhale as you wrap back and down. And we'll switch directions. Taking a few circles the other direction. Really exaggerating the movement. Clearing out the cobwebs, the stuckness in the joints in the body. Good. And then release the hands down, soften the shoulders. We'll bring some movement to the neck. So beginning with a forward and back movement. So on your exhale, bring the chin towards the chest. And your inhale, lift the head up, gaze up at the ceiling, let the head move back. And 2 more times like this. Exhale, release, let the head drop down, let gravity pull the top of the head down. Find length in the back of the neck. Inhale. One more time, coming back down. And then making your way back with the head stacking on top of the spine. And then moving the head side to side a few times. So inhale. Exhale, turn your head towards the left. Inhale, head towards center. Exhale to the right. Inhale, center. Exhale, left. Inhale. Exhale. Coming back to center. And now the option to begin to take a circle. So if the circle doesn't work for your neck, or there's any pain in the neck, just come back to either forward and back or side to side. That's all. Demonstrate moving through the circle about 3 times. Letting the ear drop over towards the shoulder, the head drops back. And letting the head come over towards the other side. Just really slowing down, allowing these slow movements in the body to help slow the breath and slow the chatter of the mind. And then begin to take the circles the other direction. Or just pausing if there's an area where you want to pause and stretch the neck and breathe into it. Good, and then coming back to center, just relaxing for a moment. Just reviewing the joints of the body that we just lubricated. The ankles, the knees, the hips, the wrists and fingers, the elbows, shoulders, and neck. And now we'll take those 6 different movements to the spine. So let's begin with the back bend. So reach the arms overhead. We'll stay in this back bend for a few breaths. So continue to breathe, so don't hold the breath. Keep breathing as you start to come into a back bend. Reaching up and back, lifting the heart. Bend back as much as you can. Some of us, like Alan, their teacher from last week, can bend really deep into the back bend. Others, maybe it's just a slight back bend. So find whatever your own edge here. Take another breath. And coming back to standing with a straight spine for a moment. Pause to neutralize. And then we'll begin to fold forward. Bend the knees slightly, if needed. If your legs can stay straight, keep the legs straight. And fold forward. And let's come on back up. On your inhale, lift back up. Come into the back bend. And exhale. Fold forward. One more time, we'll come back up into one more back bend. Maybe goalposting, cactusing the arms. And then last fold forward. And let's hang out here for a few breaths in this forward fold. Maybe grabbing opposite elbows. Maybe letting the arms hang long. Just let gravity pull you down. Maybe a little sway side to side. And then slowly coming up one vertebra at a time, stacking vertebra on top of vertebra. Good, and now we'll move into the side bends. So begin lifting the arms overhead. And a couple ways to do this. Some people do a steeple grip, or you can have one hand grab the other wrist. Keep the legs straight. I'm bending the knees a little bit just so I can fit into this, the camera here. And begin to come into that side bend. Side bending over to one side. Send the hips. My left hips are sending over to the left as I reach to the right. Staying here. Maybe releasing the hand, the bottom hand, and allow that top hand to reach up and over a little bit more. And inhale, come back up. Exhale, side bend to the other side. And coming back up. Do 2 more times each side. Exhale, side bend to the first side. Feel that length in the rib cage, in the whole side body. Inhale, come back up. Exhale, over to the other side. And inhale, come back up. Last time, maybe a little deeper into that side bend. Keep the hip and the chest open. And coming back. And final side. And then coming back up. And release your hands down. And then we'll begin the side-to-side movement, twisting the spine. So beginning slow, just tap opposite hip. Try to keep the hip points still. So rather than twisting the hip side to side, try to keep the hip points still. And so just the spine, the shoulders are moving. Of course, the hips will move somewhat, but see if you can keep the lower body grounded and steady. And moving, find your own pace here. So some people like to move really fast through this. There's benefits to both, moving fast, but also moving nice and slow. So find what pace works. Coming up a little bit higher, tapping opposite rib, opposite armpit and shoulder. Maybe tapping the opposite shoulder blade if that's available for you. And slowly coming back down. Good, and just relax again in mountain pose for a moment. Close the eyes, take a few breaths. Good, and then we'll come down and have a few more poses on the ground. So let's come down and take a seat. And for this one, we're gonna start out in Baddha Konasana bound angle, which I'll demonstrate in a moment. So press the soles of the feet together, and then clasp your hands and reach to the top of the toes. So clasp those hands around the toes, and then we'll begin just flapping the knees like a butterfly. Keep a straight spine, keep the head straight, and close the eyes. So this is recommended to do for 2 minutes. These next few poses that we'll do for 2 minutes, we may not do the full 2 minutes right now. And keep bringing those feet in a little bit closer to you. Continue to breathe and continue rapidly letting the knees come up and down. This pose is good preparation for meditation. Ten more seconds, maybe going a little more rapidly. And then relax. Then we'll come into the rock the baby pose. So a couple ways to do this. So beginning with the right foot. And so take the right foot into the left hand and we'll rock. So if it's available for you, you can hook the foot inside the elbow crease, but that might not be accessible today for everybody. So either finding your leg in the hand and elbow crease of that right elbow and rock, keeping the head straight, the spine straight, and rock the baby. With that intention of compassion, can you compassionately care for yourself, caring for that inner child? Or maybe perhaps imagining God, Jesus, rocking you. Continue to breathe, keeping the head and spine as straight as possible, rocking side to side. Ten more seconds, maybe a little more rapidly. And then pause and switch legs. So the right knee bends. And for some, maybe you find a modification of keeping the leg that's not being rocked. If it's better to keep that long, that's always another option. So taking the left foot in the right hand, the left elbow crease around the left knee, and begin to rock a little bit. And if it's available for you to bring the foot inside the elbow crease and rock side to side, and to keep the head straight, the spine lengthened and straight as possible. Close the eyes or focus on one point and rock the leg side to side, rocking the baby. Maybe moving a little more rapidly. Ten more seconds. And release the leg. And we'll come into our final moving pose, into hands and knees to tabletop pose. If you're feeling any pain under the knees, maybe putting a blanket or some padding underneath the knees. And so we're going to do a different variation of cat-cow that maybe from the standard one, so with a little bit more steps added into it. So feel free to make this your own, but the style that I'm going to guide us through is one that I do as part of my meditation sequence each day. So with 9 different steps. So inhale with the spine straight. Exhale, curve the spine. Tuck the tailbone. Inhale. Lifting up, shine the heart forward, point the tail up. And now on the exhale, bring the chin towards chest and lift the knee. Bring the knee towards the nose, towards the face. Inhale, send that right leg back behind you as you lift the head, keeping both hands down. Send that leg straight behind you. Continue to breathe. And lower the right knee down and bring the left knee in as you curve. Curve the spine and head comes towards knee. Inhale, lengthen the leg, left leg behind you. A strong engaged leg. Breathe. And exhale, curve the spine, chin towards chest. Lifting up, shine the heart forward, lift the tailbone, lift the head. And coming back. So 2 more times like this, or any other variation of cat-cow, circles, anything you need to do here. So I'll do 2 more rounds of this sequence that I just guided us through. Inhale for a straight spine. Exhale, tuck the tailbone, tuck the chin towards chest. Inhale, shine the heart forward, press the hands into the ground. Lift the head, lift the tailbone. Exhale, lift the right knee, bring the knee towards the nose. Curve the spine. Inhale, send the leg, right leg back behind you. Strong leg, lift the head. On your next exhale, right knee down, left knee comes in towards the face. Inhale, send the leg back behind you. Exhale, curve the spine. Inhale, point the tailbone up, head up, shine the heart. And coming back to neutral. Last sequence here, last round of this. Exhale, curve the spine, tuck tailbone, tuck chin towards chest. Inhale, shine the heart forward, cow pose. Lift the head, lift the tailbone. And exhale, knee towards face. Squeezing it all in, crunching in. Inhale, send the right leg long. Find length, strengthen the leg, lift up through the head. Exhale. Right knee down, left knee crunches in towards the face. Inhale, lengthen. And exhale. On down. I invite you for a moment now just to swing around and come into a Shavasana pose, into a resting pose. And we'll just take a moment here in this resting pose, Shavasana, to just relax, to settle, to surrender. Coming in here just for a couple minutes to continue to settle and relax, engaging the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and relax. Allowing yourself just to settle in and rest in God's hands. Again, those words from the opening meditation, perhaps just feeling God communicate these words to you. I'm right here. I see you. I've got you. I love you. I'm not going anywhere. Feeling the presence of God's extreme tenderness and mercy and compassion for you, and for those throughout the world. Now we'll start to bring a little movement back. It's a nice short Shavasana here. You're going to bring some movement back to the wrists and the ankles. Stretch the arms overhead along the ground, taking that deep morning stretch, finding length, and then moving over to one side, resting for a moment in fetal position. And slowly make your way back up to a seat. In your seated pose, watch the breath. Notice the breath coming in and out. Perhaps feeling God's breath breathing life into you. Perhaps feeling the union, the connection between your own individual soul with the divine spirit. This oneness that Jesus' life, death, and resurrection brought forth. Bringing the hands to heart center. This prayer of compassion for the world, I invite you just to repeat these words either silently or repeat them out loud. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I walk through this world with ease. May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings walk through this world with ease. Just bowing forward, honoring the God who is in our midst, who is immanent in all of creation and beyond. We bow forward to this loving, compassionate God who became known through Christ. Amen. Namaste. So about 7 years ago, I was looking to do a yoga teacher training, and all these Jesuits were telling me, you got to meet Frank Buckley. He's a Jesuit priest and a yoga teacher. And so came out to San Francisco, lived with Frank and did my teacher training. And so Frank's been a great mentor and friend. We did the first time we used the term Ignatian yoga, which Nikki and Frank are both wearing the original logo, but we adapted the logo a little bit and have the one that I'm wearing. But so Frank, about 4 years ago, and I led it in Hollywood at the center, which just opened up. So it's a wellness center for people who are living on the streets, people who are facing addiction in Hollywood. That Frank has done amazing work over the past 40 plus years there, including this morning was apparently handing out donuts. That doesn't seem like in line with the wellness thing, but we gotta do what works these days. So with that, Frank is gonna guide us through. He's constantly, every time I talk to him, he's doing different trainings and workshops on mindfulness, neuroscience, all kind of related fields. So excited to be able to share him. Welcome, Frank. Thank you. I'm glad it worked out for you to be with us.
All right. Good morning, everyone. As Bobby said, my name is Father Frank Buckley. I'm delighted to be with you all this morning. What a great group. To be honest, a little overwhelming. I just go, there's Lorette I'm seeing. I keep clicking page 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I will tell you the technology gods and goddesses were not cooperating this morning. We had a little trouble getting on. But as Bobby says, we do a little yoga and everything kind of works out. Nikki, thank you for doing your magic. I'm really privileged to be here to speak to you today on a topic that when Bobby asked me, it sounded so easy till I saw I have 20 minutes to kind of do this in. So what we'll do is I'll do a 20-minute kind of just a little academic piece, and then we'll move from that to really this experiential piece where we'll actually sit for 20 minutes. So as Bobby said, I'm a Jesuit priest, I'm a clinical psychologist, and I'm clinical director of the Center in Blessed Sacrament. So welcome to Hollywood. I know, I don't know about all of you, but I know Lorette is. I know here in Los Angeles, we're doing what's called shelter at home, which has really made our lives very unusual. Mine really turned and tanked for a little bit when Core Power Yoga closed, because that was kind of my lifeline to yoga in the middle of being a parish priest here and helping with the school and the wellness program. Like, it had all kind of classes I could get to anytime. So when that ended, things started to shift. And we had to start imagining doing things differently. So when Bobby asked about this talk, I thought it'd be really great to just share with you kind of from this sheltering at home, like just where we started. Blessed Sacrament is a Jesuit parish right on Sunset Boulevard in the heart of Hollywood. And the first thing that came out was this idea of social distancing. And immediately that was like a brick wall dropping in front of us, especially at the center. The whole part of the center for people unhoused is the opposite of addiction, is connecting and how to connect. So the first thing we did in a very Ignatian way, St. Ignatius would always say, if you hit kind of roadblocks, it's a poverty of imagination. So we changed the tagline. We started saying, we're going to practice physical distancing, but socially connecting to God, to ourselves, and to the world. And from that, it's looked so many different ways. Tomorrow I'm doing the online Palm Sunday Mass, which I still have no idea exactly what it's going to be like. But the one thing I found in the middle of all of this is people have really stepped up to the plate in really amazing ways that I could have never imagined. So that's kind of what I want to focus on. Just a three-pronged kind of piece to this that's been helpful to me during very challenging times. I'd like to look at mindfulness or prayer and meditation. I'd like to look at what neuroscience has to contribute to the conversation. And in light that this is Ignatian yoga, I'd love to look at it through the lens of Ignatian spirituality. So I thought if we could start, I'm a huge fan of Anthony DeMello. So he wrote a beautiful little book called Seeking God Everywhere about the spiritual exercises of St. Ignatius. And especially as I was getting ready for a little talk on mindfulness, I thought you'd find this very helpful. At the beginning of the exercises, St. Ignatius called it the principle and foundation, which means we are created to praise, reverence, and serve God. And the psychoanalyst in me loves the second part, and by that way save our soul. So this is what DeMello says. I'd like to make some preliminary remarks on silence before we talk of the matter at hand. There's a little phrase from Thomas Merton that I find very beautiful. The world of the human person has forgotten the joys of silence, the peace of solitude, which is necessary to some extent for the fullness of human living. A few lines later, Merton adds, the human person cannot be happy for long unless they are in contact with the springs of the spiritual life, which are hidden in the depths of our own soul. If the human person is exiled constantly from their own home, locked out of the spiritual solitude, they will cease to be a person. There is only one way for people to confront themselves, and that is through silence. All of us need to develop a tolerance for silence, a home to ourselves, a place to touch the well springs of life buried deep within us. There is nothing as valuable as silence. All of us must go back and touch with our inner resources. Thomas Merton quotes a Syrian monk in his book Contemplative Prayer. If you love truth, be a lover of silence. Silence is like the sunlight which will illuminate you in God and will deliver you from ignorance. In the beginning, we have to face ourselves to be silent. But then there is born something that draws us to silence. If only you practice this, untold light will dawn on you and consequences will occur. After a while, a certain sweetness is born in the heart of this exercise, and the body is drawn almost by force to remain in silence. All the mystics say that once you get acclimated to silence, there is a great sweetness to it and no turning back. So this morning, let's get acclimated to the sweetness of silence. I'd like to start, it's a little retreat with just a couple things that I find really helpful with prayer and meditation. One comes from the Buddhist nun Pema Chodron in her book, Start Where You Are. She starts the book with a great line that is just this: we are only one eye blink away from being fully awake. And that's a hopeful message. And the other one, I love the Buddhist mindfulness teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, it's almost his mantra. The miracle of mindfulness is not only that Jesus walked on water, but that he walked on the green earth. So that's what mindfulness, that's what meditation gives us, an opportunity in the middle of COVID-19 to experience a little miracle in our everyday, ordinary lives. So let me just start. I'm going to kind of start with the neuroscience, and then I'll go to Father General Arturo Sosa. Just gave a great YouTube talk to 1,000 Jesuits and lay colleagues about how to live spiritually during this time. And then I want to end with just a little of the method that I find very helpful that I use mostly working with the Unhoused, which has been most of my work around mindfulness meditation has really been around the world of recovery, San Quentin Prison, Father Alfred Center in the Tenderloin, and here the Unhoused in Hollywood. So it's really been my great privilege to journey with people on the periphery who have really taught me how much mindfulness, really how mindfulness can be a miracle. You know, I could easily focus on the next hour about how difficult technology is, but then I can also go this other way, and like we can have, believe it or not, sometimes it rains in LA and like the Unhoused will come in with everything they own and everything's dripping wet. I'm completely miserable trying to find out where to put everything. And then we sit for 20 minutes, have a little green tea, and then we just go around the room and say, what was it like? And it's like, I felt peace, I felt connected, I felt home. It's like, are you kidding me? So it really has a way of transforming us. So with the neuroscience, as I loved at UCLA, Dr. Dan Siegel, he's really spent his life with studying what happens in the brain and the body with mindfulness. And what he says is, at the end of the day, we are wired to connect. Neurons that fire together, wired together. And with neuroscience, in his book called Awareness, he does a really amazing thing is he brings it into the schools. And what Siegel shows with neuroscience is if you can just imagine a wheel, and then on the outside of the wheel is a rim, okay? And then in the middle of the wheel, think of your bike wheel, is the hub. And what he says with mindfulness is just be a little playful with me, but imagine a bike with just one, como se dice, spoke. Okay, and what he says is anytime we can point that spoke, like my spoke 10 minutes ago is this whole thing going completely south at this moment? Before that, my spoke was like, wow, I'm the luckiest Jesuit alive to get to pass out kettle glazed donuts to all the Unhoused in Hollywood. To right now is like, wow, this is really amazing to be reaching these kind of people. So the spoke goes anywhere. And but what he says is with mindfulness, what happens is we get to do this amazing thing and we bend the spoke backwards. And when we put it on ourselves, we go to the breath, unbelievable things can happen in our ordinary lives. And what he says in his book about awareness is he brought this to inner city kids in different schools. He taught teachers how to do it and introduced them to it. And this one inner city school, there was this kid, Billy, he's a foster kid. And most of the unhoused people that I work with, that's where they start, in the foster system. Then they turn 18 and they end up on the streets. I mean, it's kind of unbelievable. But Billy had been to 5 different schools. This was kind of his last hope, was this kind of school specifically for difficult children. And Siegel writes this: Billy, a 5-year-old boy expelled from one school after another for beating up other kindergarten students on the playground, was transferred to Miss Smith's class in a new elementary school. The teacher had learned about the wheel from my books and about the neuroscience. In her class, she asked her students to draw a wheel figure with a large outer circle and a smaller inner circle, connected with a line as the spoke. Ms. Smith then describes how the hub is our awareness, the rim, various things we are aware of, and the spoke is how children could determine where their attention would go. A few days after learning the wheel as a drawing, Billy came to her and said the following, which she quoted in an email she wrote to me. Ms. Smith, I need to take a break. I'm about to beat the crap out of Joey because he took my block out on the yard. I'm stuck way out there on the rim. I need to get back to my hub. Billy took the time he needed to distance himself from the impulse to hit, something he undoubtedly had learned either as a rigid response with chaotic results and with the wheel image. He was able to articulate what he needed and then develop an alternative, more integrated way of responding. He could respect another child's behavior and acknowledge his own impulse, but choose not to react impulsively. Weeks later, Ms. Smith wrote back to me that Billy had become a welcome addition to her class. I mean, it almost really brings tears to my eyes. You know, I mean, it's like this kid was destined, I could tell you, to go from school to school to school into the prison system. And like a simple little thing like this mindfulness has the possibility of completely turning a person around. So that was Dan Siegel. Bobby, when he was doing his meditation, his yoga with you, he talked a little bit about the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. And I'd recommend to you the work of Dr. Stephen Porges, who's done all kinds of work on trauma. But what he shows is we have the sympathetic nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system, and but then he adds a third part that's really probably the most important part of all his work. So I always try to explain this a little in layman's terms, but the sympathetic nervous system is fight or flight. And I always tell people at the wellness center, you know, like if there was a mountain lion outside my door, I really want to have that sympathetic nervous system activated. I want to breathe fast, be ready to pounce, ready to jump, heartbeat racing. But then I tell people at the center, I've been here over 5 years now, and I haven't seen any mountain lions, tigers, or bears outside that door yet. So you don't really need the sympathetic nervous system. Then the parasympathetic nervous system is our calm, relaxed nervous system that happens during meditation. And Porges also talks about like calming from the heart down, but also this idea what he talks about of safety. That when you feel safe, really all kind of amazing things can happen. And the whole autonomic nervous system, the sad thing is we really have very, very little control over. I'm looking at Lorette, her husband's a doctor, she's a nurse. Please nod, I think I've got this right. I'm not a medical doctor, but that's kind of the gist of it. But the piece I take from it all as a psychologist is the one thing that with the autonomic nervous system, we absolutely have control over is our breath. That we can, believe it or not, even in a fit of anxiety, we can control the breath. And there's a doctor at Harvard, Dr. Andrew Weil, that has come up with this really kind of amazing technique of control, of calming the autonomic nervous system, even during the most difficult times. And it's just this, and I'm gonna invite you to do it now. One thing with COVID-19 we're missing is the physical world of touch. So I invite you just to take your hands to your heart. You can lower your eyes a little bit. And we're just gonna do this 3 times. It's just inhale for 4 through the nose, hold for 7, exhale for 8. Okay, and I'll lead us. So inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good. Let's do it again, bringing fresh oxygen to the brain and the body. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wonderful. Last time, deep inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Beautiful. Release the hands, just rub them together. That brings a little oxytocin into the body. Deep inhale and then blow out a candle. Inhale. Excellent. So just notice how you feel right now. This actually, it's what he says is it calms, I like the word, it bathes the heart. So like with people on the streets, I'm always introducing, you can do this at any time. No one will even know it. Like I'm a Jesuit priest. I can go out there in front of 800 people and I'll just do this 4, 7, 8 breathing before I have to give my homily. No one has ever even noticed. So it's a really great way to bathe the heart during stressful times. And then the last one I want to introduce, and we will go on to Father Kolvenbach in a little method, is Dr. Diana Fosha, New York City psychoanalyst, founder of Accelerated Experiential Dynamic Psychotherapy. So while we're at the heart, I would just invite you, a little acronym for heart is this idea with neuroscience of undoing aloneness. And that's what we're all going through right now. I mean, it's very hard to shelter at home. And what she says is you're never going to undo the aloneness just through cognitive capacity. We got it 12 inches from the head to the heart, drop down to the heart. And just using the acronym HEART, so H, rather than thinking about psychopathology, we think about healing. It's just the natural inclination. The acorn always grows into the oak tree, given the right nutrient and supplement. So just we focus on healing. The E is focus on emotion. Like notice what you're feeling. Get it like after you do the bathing of the heart, just get in touch with how am I feeling now? The A is the undoing of aloneness. R is relationship, connecting, and I'll get to Father General with that in a minute. And then T is transformation. If we can do this, we have the ability to transform. And in doing the meditation and mindfulness, the other part with neuroscience is it's really showing how meditation is so good for the whole body. It lowers stress, reduces inflammation, boosts the immune system, lowers anxiety, but most of all, increase as well-being. The last piece before we get into this is because it's Ignatian Yoga. If you can get Father General's YouTube, it just came out to the whole world. It's phenomenal, and it's really about COVID-19 and during uncertain times. And what Father Kolvenbach says is that Jesus comes in the world not to enslave us, but to set us free. And we know that's the heart of Ignatian spirituality, is freedom. I love, I shared on our Facebook talk the other day, Rumi is probably my favorite quote. Fear is the cheapest room in the house. I'd love to see you living in better conditions. And what Father Kolvenbach says, back to this thing of relationship, back to this whole idea of neuroscience, we're wired to connect. Father Kolvenbach is not Father Kolvenbach, Father Arturo Sosa is not a neuroscientist, but he's right in line with neuroscience is showing us. We are wired to connect. And he says, during this difficult time, we can connect in 3 ways. He says, first, foremost, we connect with love. We can either live in the room of fear or the room of love. And that's by dropping down to the heart. And then second is intellectually. How can we, during COVID-19, how can we intellectually respond to this in ways that will keep us safe? And then third, through social action. As people are literally dying all around us, how can we help those people who are on the periphery and on the margins? And at the very end of his, I think it was about a 30-minute talk, he says, you know, we do this by reaching out to people, but we also do it through prayer. And, you know, he loves the lady. He goes every day and prays to a statue of her in Rome. And I thought, Bobby, how are we doing? I think we can segue into meditation now.
Yeah, whenever you're ready to move into a practice of it.
Okay, let
Sure.
me thank Bobby. Thanks for the other thing I noticed teaching mindfulness to people on the streets. For the longest time, it was about me and 2 or 3 others. Like, it's really hard to sell. Let's sit down for 20 minutes. And so then I did add donuts to the mix. That helped. I add Tibetan bells. That helped. But I think at the end of the day, kind of what helped really the most was to just, once we started to build a little community, like Blanche Hartman, who was abbess of the Zen Center, she said, when we sit alone in our rooms, it's quiet. But when we sit in a community, like put your your screen on so you can see everyone, it's really quiet. And that's where the miracle, that's where the transformation really happens. So what I also did was I gave them a little method to do this. And I'd share it with you because I kind of I'm a big, I won't say stealer, borrower from different traditions. And the two, especially working in prisons and with the unhoused, that I found the most helpful, just in my own personal practice, come from TM, the Maharishi who brought transcendental meditation over from India to LA, and from Father Thomas Keating, centering prayer. And I always tell people, you know, pick your poison, whatever you like. If you've got $1,000 and can go to a TM center, knock yourself out. It's pretty good, and they'll give you a beautiful mantra. I really love transcendental meditation. I really love his book because the Maharishi will talk about all medicine, nursing, social work, psychology, universities, and he'll say all what's important. But at the end, he said, what's most important, forget about everything else, do the meditation. And with him, it's just, you get a mantra and you do it twice a day for 20 minutes. And I will tell you, there's a guy, Dr. Rosenberg, wrote a book called Super Mind. He's a psychiatrist at Georgetown, and he's probably one of the best researchers I've ever come across. But my favorite, don't even buy the book, just my favorite line in the book is at the end, he says, I've been able to show you all the research, but the one thing we've never really been able to empirically validate, but just in my own practicing over 30 years of sitting twice a day for 20 minutes, the one thing I know to be true, when you do this, the world starts going your way. And that is absolutely my experience. And I've done both. I've done it twice a day, and the world has gone my way. And for reasons I don't know right now, I stopped and everything started going south. So, you know, try it. If you don't like it, gladly refund your misery, go back to the other way. So that's Maharishi. And then the one I'm going to share with you, we're going to do today. He died last year. I love Father Thomas Keating, centering prayer. And what he says is, you know, when Bobby says we have very short time for this retreat, I could spend, you know, 3 days talking about different methods. But the method for Thomas Keating, who spent his whole life, 70 years as a contemplative monk, he said, the method is so simple, it's almost hard to believe. You just sit down. So every single one of us can do it. I will tell you during COVID-19, while we're sheltering at home, it really helps to set up a little space. Like, I don't know if you can see, here's my office. Like, I lit a candle. I have one of those Himalayan lights. They're supposed to give off good ions. Someone gave me, it's like a scent thing, so you can have lavender. So, you know, just set it up for whatever you like. Thich Nhat Hanh says, you know, in America, you've got rooms for washers, dryers. In LA, we have media rooms, but nowhere to pray. So set up a little sacred space. You see what Bobby's got set up in Berkeley, something that's kind of special for you. And then what he says is we just sit down and we engage, we pick a sacred word. Doesn't cost you $1,000. It's anything you like. Jesus, Mary, kindness, love, yes. It should just be a couple syllables. You say it 4 or 5 times and then drop down to deep rest. Enjoy the ocean floor. If you've got a pulse, if you're human at all, thoughts will come up. When they do, just re-engage the sacred word, drop down to the ocean floor, enjoy a little deep rest. And I will tell you, you know, people will say, oh, Father Frank, that was the worst experience of my life. My thoughts just went the whole time. And I said, well, don't take my word for it. Maharishi spent his whole life doing this. And he said, one of my favorite things I've ever heard, whether you put your big toe into the ocean or a shallow pond, you still get wet. So let's get wet this morning, get comfortable, and we'll begin. I'll ring the bell. Normally you would do this in silence, but what the heck, I'll do a little guided meditation for us just this morning because I can. So don't worry about your timer. I got you covered. I'll get the timing right. So the main thing is what Father Keating says, just sit down, get comfortable, cross your legs, sit in a cross-legged seated position. Wendy, I like your shawl. If it's cold, LA, it's always hot. You can put a little blanket on and close your eyes, 3/4 closed, just anything that feels safe to you. And let's begin. As always, we begin with diaphragmatic breathing, that is breathing deeply as possible into the lower belly 3 times. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Inhale and exhale. Beautiful. 2 more times. Inhale and exhale. Last time, give it all you got. Inhale and exhale. Continue to breathe on your own. God is as close to us as this beautiful air that we breathe together. Just settle in. Take the attention to the body. Start with the feet. Feel the feet pressed onto the green earth, our mother, and know that the earth can be trusted. Moving up the body, we arrive at the chair, providing support. And during these uncertain times, we all need a little support. Let's reflect on where we felt supported recently. Could be a relationship, something of beauty, an experience of kindness, just somewhere you felt supported. Healthy spine, healthy body. Lengthen the spine, relax the shoulders. Anything you've been holding on to this morning, just surrender, let go, renew. Perhaps you feel a little lighter. Moving towards the front of the body, we arrive at the heart, that beautiful place where the physical world literally touches the spiritual world. See if you can come up with something this morning that brings you a little joy. and just name it in one word. Very, very gently place that word all the way towards the back of your heart. And as an Ignatian yoga community, let's all breathe one time into that joy. Together, inhale and exhale, and just notice what you feel. Moving up the body, we arrive at the forehead. Take the attention to the area between the eyebrows, that seat of intuition, the one place in our life that always tells the truth, and focus on an intention for this morning's retreat. In the spirit of St. Ignatius, let us ask for something we deeply desire in our life in this moment, not being afraid to ask God for something great today. We'll seal the intention with an inhale and an exhale. Take the attention to the breath. Engage the sacred word. Repeat it 4 or 5 times. Drop down to the ocean floor and enjoy a little deep rest. Please continue. Believe it or not, we're already halfway done. If any thoughts keep arising, and it's just the nature of some thoughts, it's part of being human, take the thought, place it on a beautiful large green leaf, allow the leaf to flow down a running blue stream, taking the thought with it, then very, very gently bring the attention back to the breath. Engage your sacred word. Drop down to the ocean floor and enjoy a little more deep rest. Please continue. We only have a little less than a minute left for this meditation. It takes 7 muscles in the face to smile and 47 to frown. I invite you for this last minute to put a gentle smile on your face and to engage the ancient 17th century Tibetan practice for this last minute of sprinkling a little joy over your meditation practice and yourself. Please continue. Gently bring the attention back to the room. If your eyes were closed, you may open the eyes. It helps to circle the wrist a little one way, then the other, just kind of re-engage with the room. Shake out anything you've been holding on to, or if you put anything on that leaf, shake it down the river a little further. Beautiful job, everyone. You were lying down, sit back up. And I will turn it over to Bobby.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was wonderful, Frank. We're going to take just a short, small group time. So each person has a chance to connect, to share your experience. If you don't want to do small group right now, you can just use this time to journal. But we're probably going to keep it just at like 10 minutes. A couple minutes here to open the floor. If anybody would like to ask a question or just share something you heard that you think would be helpful for the whole group to hear, you can raise your hand. Either you can do that through Zoom, raise hand if you go to participants, I think, raise hand, or you can physically raise your hand and Nikki and I will, whoever we see with their hand raised, we can unmute you.
Hi, everyone. I'm not Maureen Riley. I'm Mary Riley. I know a few of you here. I just wanted to say I think in our small group we felt a sense of hopefulness, like hearing from Frank and hearing him being like, there's this loss of connection, but it's been really cool to see people kind of all being in the same boat and having this sense of hopefulness, and seeing like my friends in California and things like that when I'm all the way in PA. It's been, and to know we're all practicing together and we're all in it together. So thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Nice to see you. Mary just graduated last year from the Jesuit School of Theology, where Frank and Nikki and I all, where I am and where Frank and Nikki went.
Melissa, do you have something you'd like to share?
Yeah, I just had a question because this was so helpful to have a guided kind of live centering prayer time, and I'm wondering if there are any resources you know about that we can log into or check into or what have you on a regular day.
Yeah, that's a great question. I did see Frank put something in the chat about the group he hosts at the Loretta community. Frank, can I unmute you? Could you maybe say something about that?
Sure. Yeah, I put in, we have a Facebook page, and I put Lorette. I always see Lorette joins me. So we kind of broadcast live out of Blessed Sacrament in Hollywood, and it's just called Flourishing During Difficult Times, Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. So you can just go to Facebook, type in Blessed Sacrament Hollywood. It's a really great community, people literally from all over the world. It's not a Zoom, it's just a Facebook live page, and we do a little inspiration at the beginning, 20 minutes in silence, and then a little Ignatian examen at the end. And you would all be more than welcome to join.
Can you add that in the email that goes to us after this, so we make sure we?
Yes, thank you, Melissa. I will get all of those details from Frank and share it in our email, follow-up email.
Great.
And if anybody else out there has any recommendations, anything you're doing, add it into the chat or email to us, and we'll kind of keep creating a resource list. So.
Sure. Well, thanks again, Bobby. Thanks for having me. It was, a full topic. I tried to just give you a little bit of everything, but pieces of kind of what I found interesting. I do think these are challenging times. Bobby and I love Bobby and Nikki with Ignatian Yoga. I think like it's a great time to practice this. Bobby and I have worked a lot together, and I will tell you, it's so great to have Bobby like do the yoga before and then do the meditation. It really helps to do a little exercise first, and then it's easier to quiet the body. And I love, especially, I would leave you with, I think right now during this virus, it's really important to, do the physical distancing, drink plenty of water, stay socially connected. And I, as a Jesuit, I really love St. Ignatius's idea of how do we become contemplatives in action. And Father de Mello would always say when he wrote that we got it right, St. Ignatius got it right, but in the West, we put the accent on action, and de Mello really wanted the accent on contemplation. And Father General spoke to us. I definitely would recommend, Nikki, if you can get that YouTube to everyone, that, these are challenging times, but don't go to the negativity. Like, try to find positivity, and it's a time to reimagine the world in beautiful ways. I mean, when would have we ever done a Zoom 300-person, Ignatian yoga group on Zoom? I don't know if you've read, but in Tacoma, Bellarmine High School connected with a nonprofit shelter, and they opened their whole gym to let the people who stay in the shelter could be physically safe, who are unhoused, come stay in the gym during the day. Before I've been to Bellarmine, Tacoma, that would have never been a possibility. So I think Ignatius would always say, and I always say this with unhoused in Hollywood, if we have homeless in Hollywood, it's really very simple. It's a poverty of our imagination. More money goes by Sunset Boulevard than most countries. So how do we reimagine? And, Bobby and Nikki, my hat's off to you. I think Ignatian yoga is really one of the greatest things the Jesuits are doing in moving in this way of connecting in the Jesuits. So I would say, to really, with Ignatian yoga, keep reimagining, keep focusing on what does it mean to be a contemplative in action. So thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Frank. I've been trying to get Frank to join us on an actual weekend retreat, which those are on hold for now. It looks like we're gonna have to cancel probably 4 of our weekend retreats, but hoping that the one in Los Altos next January is still on, and I'm trying to get Frank to come up from LA for it. So so pray that can happen. But also thank you for being part of this. We had, about 130 people today on the call, but I think almost 300 people signed up in some capacity. So that really helps us keep going. We have a couple of staff members that we pay and to continue this work. So having to cancel 4 retreats, this is allowing us to keep going and keep imagining new ways that we can bring Ignatian spirituality and yoga to people. So thank you for being part of this. And let's see, I want to just share what the next couple weeks will bring. Well, so next week, Kevin O'Brien, who is the president at Santa Clara, he wrote the Ignatian Adventure, and so he's going to join us for a bit. He's not a yogi. Maybe he'll join us for some yoga, but Carolyn Swabek, who's one of our core team members, is going to be one of the co-presenters and teaching some yoga and meditation. And then 2 weeks from now, Frank Clooney, who is supposed to be with us on our recent New York retreat that had to be canceled, he's going to offer a talk. So he's a Hindu scholar and comparative theologian, Harvard professor, Jesuit priest, and he's going to be with us along with Carol Gibney, campus minister at Fordham University. And then April 25th, which it happens to be a special day for both Nikki and I. It's our birthday, so we're going to come up with something fun. I was actually emailing with a nun from Spain who's a big yogi. She's living in Burkina Faso right now. She wanted to be part of this, but she doesn't have internet connection. So I was seeing if we could bring her on. There's a great interview that we'll share. It's in Spanish, but she also speaks English. So I'll share that. So I want to keep her in our prayers. Christina, who's a young nun, who's a big yogi, Catholic nun, and living in a village in Burkina Faso, a place where there's a lot of conflict, unrest, in addition to the COVID-19 virus. So thank you for joining. Be in touch. Let us know your feedback. We'll share the recording later tonight or tomorrow. Nikki, thank you so much for being supporting this, as you do so much for Ignatian Yoga, and getting Frank on. And for a closing prayer. So as we enter Palm Sunday here, we have to be creative. We went and found some palms. Fortunately, I'm in California, and found some palm trees. And so a prayer for as we enter Palm Sunday and Holy Week. Let's take a couple of grounding breaths, maybe close the eyes or maybe reading along. In gratitude for this time, for all the people that have joined here. Let us join our hearts together, pray for each other, and pray for all those around the world, especially those most impacted. As we now enter into the contemplation of the passion of our Lord Jesus Christ and meditate on the salvation of the world through his suffering, death, burial, and resurrection, let us pray. Everlasting God, in your endless love for the human race, you sent our Lord Jesus Christ to take on our nature, to show us who you are, to teach us how to be human, and to suffer the death on the cross. In your mercy, enable us to share in his obedience to your will, and in the glorious victory of his resurrection, who lives and reigns with you in the Holy Spirit, one God, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you all so much. Take much care, and have a great week ahead.
Thank you.